be branded as in some form of ECU Health. They did not have a name picked yet, but he said it basically would be shared governance and branding. It's not a financial transaction, but and it's no name of this time. UNC System President Peter Hahn said of today's announcement, this begins to place ECU Invited into closer organizational alignment so the mission remains the priority, serving the healthcare needs of Eastern North Carolina, rural areas of our state, and beyond. Chancellor Rogers' selection of Dr. Waldron and Dr. Higginson demonstrates that they will all realize the most strategic and productive way forward to working more closely together. Dr. Higginson was the interim dean of the School of Medicine since the last school dean left, and he will be in a role as the under Dr. Waldron for this position. So that's big news for East Carolina University, Vita Health. Big news for Eastern North Carolina because, as everyone knows, they have thousands and thousands of people they serve in Eastern North Carolina, actually millions, and they have several facilities from Virginia on down almost to Wilmington. So this is big news for the branding and collaboration between these two important entities. Also, out of national news today, you might have heard yesterday we talked about the importance of Senate Bill 1, which was the Senate version of H.R. 1 for the People Act. And yesterday, actually right after our show, the Republicans blocked using the filibuster to stop debates on what the Democrats say is their top priority. We have talked about before that this is sweeping election law changes that basically takes the elections out of the state's hands as per our Constitution and makes it a federal issue, and it's something the Democrats have been pushing for. We announced yesterday on this show that Senator Joe Manchin out of West Virginia and Senator out of New York had got together and cut a deal, but apparently there was not enough votes. Even GOP moderate Senator Lisa Murkowski out of Alaska said she couldn't support the partisan federal takeover of the election system. In a floor speech, she said she backed elements of the bill and will co-sponsor the separate John Lewis Voting Rights Act, but can't back Democrats' one-size-fits-all reforms. If you recall, I guess about 2 weeks ago, Clark, I believe, we had Ken Blackwell that talked about H.R. 1 and Senate Bill 1, but he also talked about the biggest risk because he said there was no chance to get Senate Bill 1 and H.R. 1 passed.
That is correct.
And he said the biggest risk was this new bill. I think it was maybe HB4 or HR4 maybe, but it was called the John Lewis, or still called the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And he said this was a real threat because they could get more votes, but it was still a federal takeover of the election system, and it was really just the Democrats' way of getting more in this, that they could get a little bit more bipartisan support. But I thought yesterday this was very important, so they could just block, because I think the Democrats really was going to just use this as a time to be on national TV, to put their talking points out, knowing it would not pass. It takes a 60-vote majority to get something like that passed, but it would just give the Democrats an opportunity to really just control the dialogue. So blocking this debate, I think, is important. And anytime Senator Chuck Schumer has something bad to say about it, I'm all for or against it. So Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer yesterday accused the GOP of being afraid to debate the merits of voting rights because they forced to defend their efforts to disenfranchise voters. There's that phrase again that everybody uses. The mainstream media uses it just like the Democrat Party does. The purpose is to disenfranchise voters. Senator Schumer said, "I want to be clear about what just happened on the Senate floor." Schumer said immediately following the vote, every single Senate Republican just voted against starting debate on legislation to protect America's voting rights. Well, that is a bunch of horse manure, for sure. If you read the For the People Act, and I've read it several weeks ago, it is just a federal takeover of the election system that, per the Constitution, is the right of the states. As might you might figure Senator Minority Mitch McConnell said Republicans won't stand for Democrats' attempt to impose new voting standards on states that would rig elections in their favor. He called the substance of the nearly 900-page bill rotten to its core. So that's big. It wasn't talked about much except on some of the channels, on the conservative channels this morning when I was watching the news earlier this morning. But when you flipped over to the mainstream media channels, all they talked about was disenfranchisement of voters, and it's nothing like that at all. So that's good news out of Washington. You know, out of Florida, we talk about our governor down there, Ron DeSantis, and he is not afraid to stand up to what's going on. Just a couple of weeks ago, he signed into law a critical race theory law, and now he's signed one yesterday requiring all students to learn civics and the evils of communism. And he signed 3 bills into law yesterday, target education, requiring the teaching of evils of communism, and more. And signing these bills, DeSantis, an outspoken conservative, said, "The sad reality is that only 2 in 5 Americans can correctly name 3 branches of government, and the more than a third of Americans cannot name any of the rights guaranteed by the First Amendment. It is abundantly clear that we need to do a much better job of educating our students in civics to prepare them for the rest of their lives." I think this is very important because, kind of on a side note of this, he talked about where people cannot, can't pass a basic civics course. But when you think about it, I was looking at some demographics data the other day, and I enjoy looking at demographics data because I'm a numbers person. But in the United States, over 50% of the people in the United States were born after 1979. Now, you think about that. There's a lot that's gone on since 1979 and before 1979, but before 1979, we had the greatest generation defeat fascism and communism around the world. The people in high school now and the graduates of high school now were not even born when 9/11 happened. So you have got a lot of people that just did not grow up like people in my generation that did, that learned about World War I, World War II, and the Cold War era when we were fighting the mighty Soviet Union or trying to avoid a war against the mighty Soviet Union. So with these kind of demographics, it would be great that a state like Florida is taking the lead to make sure the students learn what we learned several years ago. So I think that's an important law that's happening out of Florida. Hopefully, when we have Jim Perry on today, hopefully I'll ask him, is anything like that in the works in North Carolina? Because that's something that's really important, and hopefully we can talk about something like that in North Carolina. We've got coming up, Jim Perry will be with us after the break. Jim, again, is the North Carolina State Senator. He's Majority Whip for North Carolina, representing the 7th District out of Lenoir and Wayne counties. And we will be back in just a minute to talk to Jim about everything that's been going on in Raleigh for the last few weeks.
And we're on location at one of my favorite places in the whole planet, because this is some of the best food you're ever going to eat in your life. We are at Nino's on Red Banks Road in Greenville. It's one of my hangouts. It's one of the places that I love. I got my friend Pietro Pasalacqua. How'd I do?
You did great.
Let's talk about the food. What makes this place? I know it's special Italian from authentic Italians, but tell us why it's so special.
Because everything we do, it's really what we came up on the menu from what we did at home, from my grandparents, my parents. So it's exactly what we eat at home, and that's the way we cook. That's why it's special.
And the atmosphere in this place is special also. From the bar to the 2 dining areas. You got 2 different dining areas, and now the weather's nice, so there's going to be a lot of folks that want to eat outside.
Yeah, we have 2 rooms. One room is designed a little different. We're also working on the patio to make it more attractive and more useful in the summer with a cocktail service. And we're always improving our services.
And, of course, my friends here, my buddy, Chef Massimo, who I love, and Sal and Pietro. You guys do a great job here. Not just Italian, but I had a great pork chop here the other night. You got great steaks, too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we're also adding filet mignon in the future on our menu. And Massimo is coming out with a really good side dishes for it. And so we're really excited to come out with new meats and fish dishes.
All right, Nino's on Red Banks Road in Greenville. Same people that give you Maribella's and the great pizza that you get at Maribella's, but this is fine dining at Nino's. If you haven't been here, you don't know what you're missing. Come see them at Nino's on Red Banks Road. And Pietro, what is that famous saying about Nino's?
The food that you enjoy with people that you love.
Top Dog Academy is Eastern North Carolina's complete dog training facility. Top Dog provides an excellent environment for dogs of all ages with training services and work week daycare. Top Dog is located on Highway 43 South, just 4 miles from Bells Fork, and features a comfortable, healthy environment and a spacious facility for daycare and a brand new, beautiful facility for training. Call 752-8215 or visit TopDogOnline.com.
Come on out Highway 43 South to Top Dog Academy, where we know dogs.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern living's best small town.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor.
First thing you should do after work.
I turn on the radio.
Check in with Tom and Benny.
Gotta know what's happening in my city.
What's going on in my backyard.
Things that are happening locally.
I like the local news.
Things that I don't hear everywhere else.
For the local news you want.
Kept me informed for all of the local stuff, It let me know what was going on in the local community.
Eastern Carolina's news source is News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome back. Before we get to our next guest here today, we have sunny, high near 81, northeast winds 6 to 9 miles per hour. Tonight, low around 57. And tomorrow night, looks like we've got another great day of weather for a concert on the Common. We had, I think, 3 weeks in a row that the weather was just horrible. And
it was actually two.
Two, okay.
Two. We're 1 for 2.
1 for 2. So last week was great. Again, this week, the weather looks like it's going to be great for tomorrow night. So come on out at, I believe, 6 o'clock. Is that right, Clark? And the band is Night Years. One of their band members from Goldsboro was a finalist on American Idol. So that should be pretty good. Looking forward to it. So great weather. Hopefully it will hold out, and looks like it will be great weather the rest of the week. On the phone with us, we have Senator Jim Perry. Senator Jim Perry is the North Carolina State Senator representing the 7th District out of Lenoir and Wayne counties. This year, for the 2021-2022 legislative years, he was elected Majority Whip by the Republican Party. And we're glad to have Jim on the phone. We've had Jim with us on the past to talk about everything going on in Raleigh, and he's had a busy time in the last few weeks. Jim, how you doing?
I'm well. Appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, you guys have been busy all about budget and everything that's a legislative issue just about, has some type of budgetary function about it. Just today, out of the Associated Press, I just noticed they released that today on this they passed the Finance Committee in the Senate, the budget that was released yesterday, and tomorrow, I believe, we'll go to the Senate floor debate, and maybe it's a couple of votes. If you could explain to us, a lot of people get confused about the budgeting process. They hear the Senate talk about things, they hear about the House talk about things. As everyone knows, the governor released his multi-billion-dollar want list, and people say, well, what's the difference between the governor's budget? For people that know, the governor doesn't have the budget. But how about just explaining briefly how the budget process works in North Carolina in a few words?
Sure. So the governor has a constitutional responsibility to submit recommendations for a budget. In the history of our state, at no time has a governor's budget ever been passed by the General Assembly. And remember, there were 140 years of Democrat control and about 30 years of, or 125 years of Democrat supermajorities. So, it's not a partisan issue. It's just everyone has different ideas. So the governor he puts out a wish list campaign document that happens whether it's a Democrat or Republican. That's what we've seen. And, everybody sees everything in it they want, and it's impossible to pay for. And then in the General Assembly, the different chambers rotate starting the budget process. So one chamber tees it up every biennium. This year it's our turn. Historically, and this is not just with Republican majorities, but the Senate has been more conservative with their budget policies. And that's really, in my opinion, a product of the fact that there's less members. So, you've got less folks with needs and wants that they're trying to fund, so that the Senate numbers are always smaller. Then the budget goes to the House, and they put the things in there they want. They've got twice as many members, so the dollar amount increase. The Senate always contains spending, goes up in the House. But you have first step's the Senate, then the second House, the House's version. In layman's terms, neither one of them really matter. What matters is the conference committee report, and that's at the end when you get all the sub-chairs together and you negotiate what becomes the final budget that everyone is really going to vote on. So it's kind of a convoluted governmental process. You see people get really excited about what is or is not in there. It really doesn't matter until we have a conference committee report. And if you go back and look at the history, it's just always been that way. You do see some projects that are listed in budgets early, and that's a signal to people back home about what's important, who's been able to get something in there. And typically they stay, but when it comes to funding of different departments or, raises are always a big thing. That's always one of the biggest budget items. All that matters is what's in there at the end.
Yeah, and like you said, the governor and the General Assembly over in the House, as far as that goes, when you're not responsible for the budget, and plus you have more constituents calling in and making requests, it's kind of like with my kids. If I didn't have any budgetary concerns on something they ask for, heck, I'll give them whatever they want.
That's right.
But we've got, almost every legislative issue has some dollar figure attached to it. Yesterday, as you know, all throughout the state, the Senate's budget was released and talked about, and
sure,
it was kind of funny how it was talked about on one side versus the other. But everyone, really, on both sides of the aisle, from a media standpoint, yesterday, seemed to be talking about just how flush North Carolina was with cash. Now, yesterday, I was reading some information out of the research division out of North Carolina General Assembly about, hey, we don't have $6 billion extra dollars this year. It's actually a lot less than that. Maybe things aren't quite as bad as they were, but we're not $6 million flush in cash. How about explaining that a little bit to our listeners?
Yeah, so when, people use accounting terminology very loosely, and not to pick on my friends in the media, but they don't teach a lot of accounting in journalism school. So when you talk about having, excess cash or surplus, they all mean different things, and so you really have to understand the terminology. And when they say that the forecast ended up being $6 million, better than anticipated, what people don't realize is that the forecast had been reduced by about $4.2 million back in February, when we have all the unknowns of COVID. And then, when they try to account for rumors of what's going to happen with coronavirus relief funds and what type of package we might see coming out, no one knew the dollar amounts. So it was, it's impossible.
Shot in the dark, really, yeah.
That's right. So it was, we expected a $4.2 million shortfall. It ended up being better. So, they got the forecast back up to about what we consider level. And we actually end up, we think we're going to collect about $1.9 billion more than we thought. So it's a $6 billion swing, but it's really $1.9 billion in cash because, it moved around in the interim. Look, no matter how you slice it, it's good to have more cash than you anticipated, but there's something else people need to realize. That's not recurring. you've got all these federal dollars out there that have stimulated the economy. People get checks, they go buy things, we collect sales tax. We still need to have responsible budgets that limit the growth of recurring spending. And you think about that as your car payment, right? So if you win bingo on Friday night for $10,000, you might be able to go buy an $8,000 car and be fine. But what you can't do is buy a $50,000 car with a $1,000 a month payment for 5 years because you had that one-time shot in the arm. So we will always think we need to control the recurring spending increases. So back when we got in trouble, before the last big recession, I'm going to call that 08, 09, expenses were growing at 9% per year, but revenue was growing at 1%. And instead of having the discipline to say, guys, that's bad, you can't let your expenses grow faster than your revenue, they just stopped funding things like retirements. We just put $300 million in the retirement account so that we can honor the promises made to our retirees. That is 10 times the amount of money that's in a current House bill to provide a 2% one-time bonus to retirees. 10 times the amount of money, much more fiscally responsible. But no one talks about that. You know, we've got a very sound retirement plan. We want to take care of our folks. We want to make good decisions. We want to give the raises that we can from a fiscally responsible standpoint. And I'll say that what you see today, don't get excited about it because that last one is what matters, that conference committee report. And we expect to continue to see changes.
Yeah, we talked about yesterday, just where this process would go from here. And, I mean, I know you can't, really call your hand right now on inside baseball, what's going on in the Senate, but what do you expect just from here? I know the House will have those ideas. You guys will have to have a conference and that type of thing. But just in terms of a timing, what do you expect to happen from here going forward, kind of from 30,000 feet, and when will we have a budget?
So I think towards the last week of July we'll be just about finished, and we should be completely wrapped up by the middle of August. And that gives us a little flexibility for communication with the governor and the other chamber and everything they have going on. This is a very fiscally responsible position. It is what has kept North Carolina in great shape and the reason we're not scared to death today like some other states have been.
Yeah, absolutely. And since the Republicans took over the General Assembly in North Carolina, it's completely different in terms of having that rainy day fund and not outspending your revenues. And also, we've had tax cuts. The Democrats like to talk about, hey, we're giving people money away in tax cuts, but I like to say that we're not giving money away, we're giving it back because it belongs to the citizens. Raleigh doesn't have any money except for what you and I and other citizens send in the form of tax revenues. So,
right.
And part of that plan we talked a little bit about yesterday, a little bit of a surprise to me when it came out. I had heard about the dropping our individual tax rate from 5.25% to 4.99%, but now by 2026 in the Senate's budget, dropping just under 4% at 3.99. I think that 3.99 is kind of like $3.99 for an item sounds a lot better than $4. So
that's right.
when you're trying to recruit businesses and individuals out of state, that's a good thing. And
Benny, being an accountant, you also understand something other people aren't thinking about. We're increasing the zero tax bracket to 25.5. We're going to mirror what the feds do. So everyone out there who's earning income today, you just got a raise.
Right.
Everyone. And we dropped about 250,000 people off the tax rolls by doing this. So, this did benefit everyone in North Carolina. And I'll say certainly the low-income worker. We get hit on that all the time about how tax rates only benefit the wealthy. And what I'll say is that, if you're not paying any tax, I can't really help you with a tax cut. But this does help everyone who's paying taxes. Everyone just got a raise. And so any other increase you hear about or somebody complaining about what they see today, and I'll just stress that this is the first step in a multi-step process. We've got a good idea of what's going to happen. I don't care who you are, you got an additional raise because of us raising the zero tax bracket and lowering the PIT. You just got to keep more of your money.
Well, like my granddaddy used to say, son, it's not so much what you make, it's what you keep. and that's definitely got that with taxes. One item I would like to ask you about, just because so many people have an interest in this in Eastern North Carolina, because of the med school was so important to Eastern North Carolina. Talk about in the budget. I think there was around 76 million it talked about, and I think the new med school is maybe in the 275 to 280 range. How will that 76 be dispersed? Is that per year, or is that over the 2-year period, or how would that work?
So that's as much money as we think that they can actually get out the door inside of the biennium. The commitment, if you read the money report, is actually $215 million. Now, you will see that the Senate actually set about $500 million cash on the sideline because, let's think about what's going on in the world right now. First of all, building materials are going up. Everybody knows that. But try to find somebody to do your construction. There's only so many projects that can be done, so that's going to help push price up also. And I think it's going to push times out. So people say, why don't you spend all that money? And, well, we kind of have because the prices are going to go up. You're not going to be able to get the contractors to do the work. It's going to, supply and demand. It's going to drive the cost up. We're trying to be reasonable about it. But that amount of construction really has over $500 million impact on us in Eastern North Carolina. That's something that has had a lot of champions over time, a lot of folks pushing for it. I certainly pushed for it. I want and need a healthy East Carolina University. I mean, it's good for everybody east of 95, and there's no doubt about that.
Well, great. Jim, one final thing. We appreciate your service up in Raleigh, and we know how busy everyone are up in the General Assembly and the personal commitment it takes. And you've been quite busy from a legislative standpoint, just in sponsoring bills and that type of thing. Looking back so far this year in this legislative session, what would you say is your proudest accomplishment from a legislative standpoint this time?
Well, so I've got some proud accomplishments on lining up folks to get legislation passed. That's important, but also working hard on veto overrides. And I think as the whip, that's important. I handle some tough issues if legislation needs to come through. Sometimes I have to run stuff I'm not necessarily crazy about, but that's my job. I had some pharmacy benefit management legislation, and it helps reduce the price of prescription drugs. That means a lot to me because of where I'm from and who I represent. That was a drug transparency pricing bill that I had. There's a couple other things I'm working on that I'm very proud of. One happens to do with the ability of a church, a private church, to choose to protect themselves if they want to authorize people on their premises to have concealed carry. I worked on that, whip boats, and worked on the other side to whip boats. And that's something that the governor vetoed last week, and it's something that I've got a lot of church schools in my district, and I've had people I grew up with. I've known them all my life. They know my mother. And they look at me and they say, "Hey, we deserve the same right as every other church to protect ourselves. Can you help us?" So that got vetoed. I will say this. We will absolutely bring that to the floor for a veto override. It's just a matter of timing. And I believe that the situation in Raleigh has changed and that Governor Cooper does not wield the hammer that he did coming up before an election with a pocket full of cash that he was going to primary everybody. And I think we're going to see some people vote their conviction. So, it's important to me folks know that we are planning on taking that up. It's just a matter of when, but it's absolutely coming to the floor. Some other legislation I'm working on behind the scenes that's a hot button with my constituents, certainly folks in our area, and that's legislation regarding critical race theory. I don't want our kids brainwashed. I am comfortable and fine talking about history of slavery in the United States and our country. I'm comfortable and fine saying, you know what, I believe in freedom as a conservative. I'm glad we don't have it today. But I don't want any kid having any type of liberal ideology forced down their throat. I don't want them having conservative ideology forced down their throat. I want them to get an education.
Absolutely.
And I think that's how conservatives think about it. So when we think about this legislation and what we're going to do, and the Senate absolutely is going to address the issue. I've seen some speculation that we were not. I promise you we are.
Now, is that through House Bill 324 that you would be addressing that they did over in the House on the critical race theory, or is this?
So the way legislation works, they file it, goes to the other chamber, you change it, tweak it, and amend it. Here's the thing I struggle with. When I grew up, the talk was all about communist Russia, and I'd hear about communist China. And I'd hear about government control, telling you what you could think about, what you can talk about.
Absolutely.
So I want to be careful about how it is approached, because, you know, when you start talking about, hey, you can't read this book, you can't talk about this topic, that's not me. I believe in freedom. But I'm going to tell you, the way they're doing it and trying to shove it down kids and families' throats, it's not okay.
No.
And we're going to find a way to address it that does allow for freedom. And I don't want to tell you, I want to teach you how to think or how to make your own thoughts, not what to think.
Absolutely.
So, you know, we think about that, but make no mistake, we see it as wrong. Every one of us are united by that. And we want to have reasonable instructors in the school teaching reasonable material. Controversial material is okay. It teaches you how to think.
Right.
But not this stuff, not brainwashing, not going too far.
Well, Jim, thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing for us. Senator Jim Perry, Majority Whip, Republican out of Lenoir and Wayne County. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to having you back on again, and maybe we can talk about this budget gets passed and Roy Cooper signs it for once. Imagine that. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for having me.
Be back shortly. Thank you.
Break the chain. Eat local. Tiebreakers.
Hey, this is Hank Hinton back here at Full Service Flooring in Winterville. I'm here today with Corey Little, who's the operations manager here at Full Service Flooring. Corey's been here 6 months, but you've been in construction a long time. Tell us about what you do here at Full Service Flooring.
Yeah, I got over here about 6 months ago. I've been in construction for, like I said, a little over 20 years, and I've known Tim for a long time now, and he's brought me over here to see what new kind of things I can bring to the store and to our customers. And I'm in charge of scheduling, and I don't know what else. I'm in charge of everything. It seems like we work together as a team and try to pull it all together. I might do a measure one day and do a commercial floor the next day, but we just kind of all work together and pull it all together at one time.
So what's new in flooring? What is the hot new thing?
The hot new thing is LVP or LVT, depending on what you're looking for, which look you're looking for. It's a waterproof product. It's absolutely fantastic. You can't really beat it.
A lot cheaper than hardwoods?
It is definitely a cost-effective alternative to hardwoods, yes, sir.
So, Corey, how is business right now?
And business is good. Despite the pandemic, we're still seeing a lot of new customers in the store, and we get an opportunity to introduce our products in a lot of different situations right now.
Corey, you've got a lot of experience in the construction industry. How is that helping you here with people, helping people with flooring here at Full Service Flooring?
Sure. I try to take the experiences that I've gained over my time in construction to help apply that to the flooring, whether it be with what the structure is made out of, the subfloor that we're going over top of, or maybe even just how it coordinates with your kitchen cabinets in construction or in your bathroom, and how the tub and everything all ties together.
And a customer can just come here and see you anytime?
Absolutely. We're here 6 days a week, and we just love to see a new customer in here anytime. They can always call us and schedule something with us so we can make sure we have our time allotted for them.
Corey, thank you so much. That's Corey Little here at Full Service Flooring. Come see these guys. They're on Tilco Drive in Winterville, 756-9308 and fullserviceflooring.com.
In North Carolina, we get up before the sun rises and stay up into the wee hours of the night. We believe in working hard and playing harder. Behind every meal, there's a farmer, and behind every farmer, there's Got to Be NC, the official state identity program for North Carolina agricultural products. Look for the Got to Be NC logo wherever you shop or eat, and you'll know you're getting a quality product grown, raised, caught, or made in North Carolina.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back. Thanks again to Jim Perry, Senator out of Lenoir and Wayne counties, for his time today. You know, it's very good. I'm a business person my entire adult life. I've been in a business, grew up in a family business, and it's good and refreshing to have elected leaders that have business experience. I don't think every elected leader should be a business person, but at the same time, I think it's important to have someone that has the experience. My first 10 years of my career, I worked with a large company. It was a business, but I didn't have the appreciation of owning a business until I really owned my own business and knew what it was like to sign a check on the front instead of the back, and it gives you a unique perspective. And for so many times in Washington and Raleigh, locally, there's times when we don't have enough business people, that's actually, had to pay people first before they pay themselves. So people like Jim Perry that's been successful in business and others, we are thankful for their service and happy that they choose to serve the citizens of North Carolina. On the phone, we have Doug from New Bern. Hey, Doug.
Hey, Benny, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
I appreciate it. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. And you're holding the fort down real well today, so thank you for doing that.
I appreciate it.
My question, as being AJ consumer, the average American citizen, is the news media not covering what the Republicans are doing, or are the Republicans doing anything? Because all we hear about the Democrats doing this and the Democrats doing that, and then we never hear the other side of the story. So are they not doing it, or is it just not being covered?
Well, I can be very, I'm critical of both sides. I mean, I can be as critical on Republicans as I can on Democrats, but it's obvious. My entire life, I mean, I'm 55 years old, and my entire life, the mainstream media has been liberal, going back to their love of John F. Kennedy, which John F. Kennedy was a Democrat, and today he probably wouldn't win a primary in a Democrat Party because they've changed so much. But it's obvious if you turn on the television and watch the news media, the bias in the mainstream media is apparent to everyone. I mean, if you're not, your head's in the sand. But at the same time, I think the Republicans, and they're doing a better job, I think they can do a better job with messaging. I mean, you can complain all you want about, hey, we don't get the coverage, but take the fight to the media. If you've got something that you believe in, go to the media and get your best people that can communicate what your mission is and your goals, and go to the media. And I think it's a little bit of both, but obviously, watching any news channels, when I turn on NBC or ABC or CBS at night occasionally just to get a feel what they're talking about, I don't recognize what they're talking about, because what they're talking about oftentimes is not the truth. What do you think, Doug?
Well, the other good flip of that coin is we got President Trump going to go down to the border. And our vice president is very upset, and they want to run down there sooner. But that's what it takes to light a fire underneath the administration that's in there now.
Well, we talked about it at the start of the show. I think today would have been 91 days that Kamala Harris has not been to the border, and they announced it today because, hey, Democrats and Republicans along the border recognize what's going on, and it's time for her to go down there. And if you've appointed by the president, that's your responsibility. Go down and see what the root cause is. Go see what the people in Texas and New Mexico and Arizona and places like that, and California, what they deal with on a daily basis. Because the bottom line is, what defines a country? What defines a nation? A border, a language, and a culture. And if you don't have those three things, you don't have a country. And if we keep going like we're going, and especially it's happened in the last 100 days, it's gotten worse. If we keep going like we're going, we're not going to have a country. So thank you, Doug. Appreciate you listening, and glad to hear you guys are listening down in New Bern. I guess you're listening on 96.3 down that way. Seems like we get better coverage all the way down to Wilmington, don't we, Clark? Look, folks, we got to take a quick break. If you want to call in, 561-8255, 561-825. Be back shortly. Thank you.
Your trade has never been worth more. Get paid the trade at Greenville Toyota. Sell us your old car for cash, up to 125% of book value. Or trade up to Camry, just $189 a month. Get paid to trade. Now at Greenville Toyota.
Anything could happen ever since I met you.
Introducing Pepsi Mango.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
My name is Dr. Neeti Armistead, Chief Medical Officer for Vidant Health. The following simple steps will help keep you and your community safe. Stay home as much as possible, wear a mask when out in public, avoid large gatherings, practice social distancing, and wash hands often. It's also important not to delay needed care. Vidant has taken important steps to provide you and your family with a safe environment. Learn more about COVID-19 and Vidant's response. Call 252-847-8000 or visit vidanthealth.com/COVID-19.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
This one's for everyone who spends the amount of time it would take to watch a movie, agreeing on which movie to watch. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar.
Get paid to trade at Greenville Toyota. We'll pay you up to 125% of book value, even if you don't buy from us. Or trade up to Corolla, just $159 a month. Don't settle for less. Get more for your trade. Now at Greenville Toyota.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
Back to news and views. Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. Today, out of Fox News was reporting big news on the front of as it deals with the police and the sentiment around the country. The nation's largest police union on Tuesday slammed politicians and the media for fueling anti-police sentiment across the country. As violent crime is surging, some politicians and some of the media are gaslighting the public into thinking the public that the police are the problem. National Fraternal Order of the Police tweeted. Now, they tweeted out some statistics around the United States that homicides in Atlanta, since all of this George Floyd protest and the protest last summer and the defunding of the police that the Democrat Party has been pushing, homicides in Atlanta are up 58%. In the city of Portland, it's up 533%. In Philadelphia, 37%. New York, shootings are up 64%, Los Angeles, 51%, and Chicago, 18%. So we talked about yesterday, Tom and I talked about that, I think this is going to end up really hurting the Democrat Party. There's actually some Democrat strategists out there saying, you guys have got to stop this defund the police, stop this anti-police sentiment, or you're going to put Donald Trump back in office. I heard one the other night talking about that. And I think something that's sort of that came out today that may be leaning towards this, in New York City, they're having a mayor race in New York City, and they have a special way of electing mayors up there now that using a new, voting type system that don't want to get into details. But the guy that's leading right now, Eric Adams, in the Democrat primary, the mayoral race, he is leading over someone that's sits in second place that was endorsed by AOC, that's anti-police, talked about removing $1 billion out of the police department's budget. But Eric Adams is a former New York policeman. So to me, in New York City, for this to be going on in New York City, I think that's important. I think that's important to show what's going on in the United States and the sentiment among people, because number one, your government should protect you, and the police is there to protect and to serve. Yeah, there's bad policemen, just like there's bad lawyers, bad accountants, bad doctors, but by and large, the majority are there to protect us. And this Democratic talking point of defunding police, I think, is going to hurt the Democrat Party. Eric Adams out of New York City, he said, New York City said, our first choice is Eric Adams. He told a room full of supporters, you don't know this, I know this. I'm going to keep my city safe. So I think that was very telling after what we see going on cities across the country, particularly Chicago, New York, Portland, and others. And here locally in Asheville, we talked about in Asheville, since this defund police movement with the Asheville City Council, they're like 90 officers short in Asheville. I mean, 90 officers. For a place like Asheville, that's a lot. And they've had 4 homicides in downtown Asheville this year. And, hey, let me tell you, it's people want to be free, they want to be safe, and they want their government to protect them. They don't want not having a civilization. Ronald Reagan said several years ago, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed for them to do the same. And that's what we're here. So I'm asking everybody to make a stand, make a difference. If you don't agree with what the government's doing, go to your city council, go to the General Assembly, talk to them, and defend your rights as a citizen. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day, and enjoy your evening. Goodbye, everybody.
All right, all right, all right.
Your trade has never been worth more.
In North Carolina, we get up before the sun rises and stay up into the wee hours of the night. We believe in working hard and playing harder. Behind every meal, there's a farmer, and behind every farmer, there's got to be NC, the official state identity program for North Carolina agricultural products. Look for the Got to Be NC logo wherever you shop or eat, and you'll know you're getting a quality product grown, raised, caught, or made in North Carolina.
We're on location at Fabric and Home Furnishings, and I'm back with my friend Lisa Pendry. And Lisa's been telling me about all the great renovations that have been going on here in the store, and I've been looking around, and it looks fantastic. Tell us what you've done here.
Well, we've knocked some walls down, we've painted, we've added some new vendors, lots of new exciting things going on. So we're making room for everybody to get what they need to transform their homes.
Looks fantastic in here. Last time we talked, you were saying that you were able to deliver a lot faster than most other furniture stores. Is that still the case?
It is. It's changed a little bit, but we're still looking at around 8 to 10 week delivery, and we do sell our floor samples right off the floor.
All right, we always say that Fabric and Home Furnishings is more than just a fabric store, so tell us what the more is all about. What when people come in, what should they expect?
Well, we love to get to know our customers. I have the best crew I've ever had, and everybody on my team is an interior designer. So we offer in-home design service, which we always have, but now they can each come out to your home after they work with you in here, figure out what's going on in your residence or your commercial property to pull it together and help you make everything beautiful.
You got great folks here.
I do.
I can tell you, I haven't gotten to know them. It's like a family when you come in here, and Everybody gets along well, and you can tell that these guys and gals really know what they're talking about when it comes to interior design.
They do, and that's really what makes us different. We offer complete in-home design service. We don't charge a by-the-hour fee. It's a flat one-time fee. We work with you in here, in your home, in your business, and help pull everything together.
All right, it's more than just a fabric store. Fabric and Home Furnishings in Arlington Village. Come see this lady. She's fantastic. Fabric and Home Furnishings. Come see the renovations here in Arlington Village. And thank you for the visit today.
Thank you, Henry.
All right, you got to come see what they've done in the store here on Arlington Boulevard in Arlington Village.